We'll move on to our next speaker, Sanath Kumar, who's the CEO of Deep Holistics. It's a wellness company dedicated to integrating holistic practices with modern science to promote mental, physical, and emotional well being. Sanath, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. And this is one of the very few times I get to publicly tell Darshit amazing shit. And we keep joking about that all the time. Okay, now on to deep holistics. How many of you here in the room have heard of the frame or have heard of the sentence health is wealth? Perfect. Makes my job easier. We essentially are health managers to people who have wealth. Just kidding. But we are health managers to people like yourself, where we help you look, feel, and perform 10 on 10 every day. Why these three words look, feel, and perform, right? At the end of the day, as human beings and as consumers, when we wake up in the morning, we want to look good, we want to feel good throughout the day, and we want to perform at our peak every single day. Now, every every construct or every data set or every marker which you look at, we look at as a particular hindrance to you being able to look, feel, and perform 10 on 10. I might have an autoimmune condition, I might have cholesterol, I might have diabetes, I might have different constructs, but these are all constructs which eventually end up at me not being able to look, feel, and perform a particular way. Now coming to what's the problem, right? Where are we at today? What is Deep Holistic solving for? Yes, I said health management, but what are we doing today? Largely from a healthcare industry standpoint, there are two major things which we have seen over a period of time as problems for where today's healthcare state is. One is disintegrated data in healthcare. Everyone's been talking about different data sets, gut microbiome, genome, blood markers, wearable data, this omics, that omics, multi-omics, etc. Right? But where is all of this together stored for you as a user, interpreted for you as a user? I come from a consumer background. I come from a background of trying to make things simple for consumers. How do I, as a user, adopt longevity? And what does that mean to me? From that standpoint, the first and foremost thing is how do I solve for data? And how do I solve for personalization through data? How do I see which data makes sense, which data doesn't make sense for me as a user? The second problem statement is from a delivery standpoint, there are so many schools of medicine. You have everything from allopathy to Ayurveda to acupuncture to Chinese medicine, Unani and whatnot. Something as simple as acne is treated by 15 people in 15 different ways. A dermatologist says clindamycin, an Ayurvedic specialist says multani mitti, my mom says don't eat fried food, right? But what does that mean, right? For me as a user and for me as a consumer, who do I listen to? The biggest problem, what we have seen is none of these different practitioners today come together to solve. All that which healthcare today feels like as a consumer to me is it feels like all of us are on one single WhatsApp group project, but none of us collaborate with each other. That's one of the biggest problems we're trying to solve for in healthcare, which is how do we bring all this data together to personalize for you? How do we build an integrated system to deliver the right form of medicine to you? Perfect. What does that mean, right? And what are we going behind? What's our vision? Our vision is to build a construct called Health 4.0. And we come from a school of thought that if Industry 4.0 taught the world how to work, Health 4.0 will teach the world how to live. Health 4.0 is a construct where we look at health being hyper-personalized, holistic, proactive, and social. Why these four words? When your Zomato notifications can be personalized, why can't your healthcare be personalized? Holistic, what do we mean by holistic, right? One of the things which very interestingly we found when we started talking to consumers is a lot of times consumers came to us with an issue of stress, anxiety, which might lead to, let's say, sleep, and that might lead to something else, something else, something else. When we started talking to these consumers, we started realizing a lot of them had issues with sense of purpose. And who thought sense of purpose could have any sort of connection with that person's health today? So when we look at health, we look at health in terms of a true holistic construct. We look at it from you as an individual, not as your left ear being different from your right ear. Proactive care from a standpoint of how do we build the right systems for you to be able to look at yourself from a proactive standpoint and not from a reactive standpoint. But yes, everyone talks about healthcare being a construct of selling fear. And 99% of every healthcare marketing piece is always about fear. Oh, you might get this disease. Oh, you might get that disease. Oh, you might get something else, something else, something else. Right? How do we change that narrative into you starting to see outcomes and you starting to see yourself in a very different perspective? The last part is social. And social becomes a very important construct here because healthcare is today not a social construct. How many of you, just as show of hands, I know this is a longevity conference, but how many of you, catch up with a friend over beer on the weekend? Lovely. How many of you catch up with a friend? How many of you here catch up with a friend over an exercise or over an IV drip or over some form of healthcare construct? And how many of you today look at healthcare from a family, friends, social, relatives, people around you, employees construct? And how many of you look at healthcare from a standpoint of if we were to build a society which is looking at proactive care, we are looking at building society from a standpoint of education from grounds up, where today healthcare, none of us largely in schools or even during our own constructs of growing up were taught how to be healthy. We all were taught, we all went to physical training sessions in school, but we were not taught how to build a regime for ourselves. We all were taught how to look at how to look at biological charts, etc. From a textbook standpoint, we were not taught how to read gut microbiome and decode our genome, etc. But why is all of this important? And how are we going to achieve this? Let me take a little bit of a side story to where we are today. And you see two faces on the screen. One is myself. And by the way, this is an AI generated image just so that I look good and I run a longevity company. The second is Dr. Vishal Rao, who is a very well-known oncologist. What are these two people doing together, and what am I doing in longevity? Right? Look at me, I don't look like a longevity guru. So what am I doing in longevity? I come from the Internet of Things background. For a long time, for a decade, I was building on Internet of Things and connected devices. What Internet of Things taught me was to build interoperability. We sold more than 800,000 smart home devices. We sold light bulbs to different homes. We started looking at data. We started looking at interoperability. And somewhere during COVID, we made the pivot from light bulbs to longevity. And that's how I come from a construct of consumer and I come from a construct of building interoperability. Vishal brings the brains of biology, and together what we look to build is what we like to call as Internet of Biology, where AI, data, and biological systems come together to revolutionize and create Health 4.0. Now, what does all this mean, right? Who are we, as a consumer, what do we mean to you and what do we do for you? Like I said, we are a health management company. We have 4 pillars of operation. We have diagnostics, where our core product is called the human token. We map all of your data sets together, which is your genome, gut microbiome, blood markers, wearable data, all of these together. Second is wellness sanctuaries, where you can go and get therapies done, everything from hyperbaric oxygen to far infrared to cryo, everything from a therapeutic standpoint. Third one is consumables, wake up to sleep as what we like to call it. Anything which touches your body or goes inside your body, we personalize for you. Hair care, skin care, oral care, supplements, whatever is either touching or going into your body, we personalize what should be consumed basis of your data. And the last one is a white glove concierge, where we set up a dedicated healthcare team for you, which has a nutritionist, a fitness expert, a mental well-being coach, and a set of practitioners. Where are we today and what have we tried to solve for? The first thing we wanted to solve for was the disintegrated data systems in healthcare. We started off trying to build pathways, as what we like to call it, in terms of integrating all of these different data sets and trying to make sense of this data set from a consumer standpoint. How do we, as a company, working with all of this data, explain to you as a consumer how your gene is mapped to your gut, is mapped to your blood, is mapped to your lifestyle, is mapped to all of your different data sets? And how do we build scalability in that, in terms of trying to scale this to thousands of people? So what we have here uh, is is a construct where we like to call this as an extension of your data, and we're trying to build forward integrations for this data today. Yes, there is so much of data which is your lifestyle, your gene, your gut, your blood, lifestyle, etc. But what are you going to do with all this data, right? Where are you going to apply this? I'll give you a very simple example in terms of the kind of work we're doing. Just last week, we launched a longevity-centered commerce experience in Hyderabad. If anybody is from Hyderabad, very recently last week, there was a retail experience which was launched in Hyderabad called Broadway. It is one of the best new retail outlets in the country, which has everything from skin care, hair care, your food and clothing and all of that. Imagine diagnostics at a retail store. So you walk in, you get a card, it's called the Future of Me card. You go and do a skin scan, face scan, hair scan, you do a body composition, everything is stored in that card. You go to every shopping aisle, you go to skin care, you go to hair care, you go to supplements, just tap your card and it'll tell you which product is suited for you basis of data. So we're trying to forward integrate all of this in terms of trying to bring this to a consumer, trying to simplify this for you as an individual. But in terms of all of this collection, how is this all done? It's an at-home service where we work with people like Darshit. We work with different partners where we collect your genome sample, we collect a saliva sample, stool sample, blood sample, process all of this. We collect a lot of information from a lifestyle standpoint. We map your sleep data, your nutrition data, we map your lifestyle markers, we map all of that. And what does this give? How does this help us convey the right message to you as a consumer? So imagine if your vitamin D is low in your blood, we map that to looking at, is it a gut absorption problem? Is it a genetic deficiency? Is it a lifestyle triggered problem? And because your vitamin D is low, what is that then further impacting? Is it causing an issue with your psoriasis? Is it causing an issue with something else? So that's where the mapping comes in terms of helping you as a user understand what this data means and what does that translate into. Because a lot of times consumers don't understand what it means, to listen to some of the medical jargons or, all of us refer to. It all means I want to wake up in the morning and not have to drink 5 coffees to start my day. Or I want to eat a biryani and I don't want to feel like I swallowed a brick. That's exactly what we try and decode for you through all of this data and simplify and say, okay, this is what's working, this is not what's working for you. Typically, we are trying to build at the top of the funnel, and a couple of our observations from a consumer standpoint. Wellness as a construct is getting more and more expensive by the day because of the ingredient choices which are coming out. It is expensive to look at making lifestyle changes from a fundamental ingredient level. We are trying to build for at the top 1% and slowly start expanding into the 2, 3, 4, 5, 10%. What also is very interesting here is how intent versus affordability also makes a large impact for us from a longevity standpoint. I'll wrap up the talk. I have a minute more. I'll wrap up the talk giving you an example. Yes, we have consent from this individual to show his data on screen. 32-year-old came to us with an autoimmune condition, ankylosing spondylitis, had been on treatment for 14 odd years, came to us with HSCRP of 170, homocysteine of 17, vitamin D quite low. And we started looking at the data, we started mapping. So when the individual came to us, we said, don't tell us about all of your blood markers and this, that and whatnot. Tell us what do you want to do. He said, look, I am like this today. My back hurts. If you can help me rock climb in 6 months, um, you know, nothing like it. I'm your biggest fan and your brand ambassador. We said, okay, challenge accepted. We took all of his data, we started mapping, we started realizing there were a lot of correlations. Uric acid was high, methane was out of production, methane production was out of whack, ammonia, butyrate. There were multiple places from where his inflammation was stemming. We started looking at how do we started looking at how do we start cutting down issues with regards to gut and markers and all of that, and we started bringing it down. In 4 months, from June to November, we brought down the HSCRP from 170 to 24, and so on and so forth. For those of you who want to have a look at the human token, you can scan this and have a look at the human token.
Thank you very much for a great talk. We are open to questions now. I'll start maybe just to get the thing going. So there's a lot of data here. And as we saw some questions that came up in the previous talk, how do you integrate this data? Is there a particular ML model that is unique to what you're doing, or is it something that others have applied and then you're using that?
So I'll start off with a very simple answer. Our innovation is in packaging. We look at healthcare as a packaging construct. All of the data is already available. I don't create any new data sets. I work with existing data sets. But what is interesting here is the way we package this data. So if I were to look at, let's say, a pathway, we look at, let's say, psoriasis. We look at the PGR for psoriasis. We map it to what related PGRs are there. We map it to influencing drugs, into influencing conditions, into influencing blood markers, gut pathways, so on and so forth. And each pathway has traceability reports to where it originated from. So there would be, let's say, 20, 30, 50, Lancet published or certain papers where we have traceability reports to saying, okay, look, this maps to this maps to this. So yes, it is packaging, but it's complicated packaging.
Of course, I don't deny that, and it's great to see that because most of us are not able to do that. It's lovely. Questions from the audience? Any one final question? Okay, if not, thank you for the lovely talk. Round of applause for.
Thank you so much.